G'day there guys, Marky here, and welcome back to another episode of r/relationship advice. Let's go. Am I the asshole for wanting my husband to start paying more for our housing? Hi all. For reference, I am 29 female and my husband is 30 male. We've been together since I was 20 and got married when I was 26. When we moved in together when I was 25, we were splitting our rent evenly. I was making $65K and he was making $80K, and we live in a large US city. It didn't really make a huge difference in my budget versus his to split the rent 50-50 for $2,600 a month rent. However, things have changed. I got pregnant a few months after we got married, which we were so happy about and wanted. I didn't want to not work, but I wanted to be home with our baby, so I found a full-time remote job in my field of work. The downside is I took a cut to my salary from $65K to $50K. We continued to split rent in our apartment. My husband, between being 26 and 30, has received a number of raises and has switched his job. He's now a senior business analyst, making roughly $195K a year. Since we were having a child, we were going to need a bigger apartment. We found a 3-bedroom for $4K per month. He still wanted to split rent evenly, despite my protests, and despite me wanting to try to find a smaller apartment for less. In the end, I sort of let myself get walked over because he really is such a smooth talker and I do love him. Anyway, flash forward 2.5 years, our rent has increased to $4,400. My take-home pay monthly after taxes is roughly $3,600. I'm paying $2.2K monthly in rent. I'm also taking care of our baby and our home, doing chores and cooking daily. My husband works from 8 to 6, but typically doesn't get home until around 7. I am burnt out. I barely have enough money per month to do things that I enjoy. I feel like I'm financially struggling while my husband is living a life of luxury. Yes, he does take me out on dates and on vacation, but he doesn't seem to understand that this is not enough for me. I spoke to him 2 days ago very seriously, and when I asked about trying to split rent based on our income and pay an equal percentage of our income so that it's more fair than fully equal, his reaction stunned me. He asked me why having $1.6K extra a month wasn't enough for me. I told him that I'm not saving anything. He told me that I should spend less on extracurricular activities, which makes me laugh because what extracurricular activities? All I do is work, cook, clean, shop for the house, and raise our child. I told him I'm basically working 2 full-time jobs at once, and I need help. Then he asked me if I'm suggesting he pay for me being a mother, and that stunned me. I really had no response to that. Anyway, he told me that this is the lifestyle we agreed when we moved in together way back when. However, he doesn't seem to understand, or rather does not want to understand. Now he's mad with me because he thinks I'm being selfish and has been acting cold to me these past few days. I'm getting the itch to apologize and take it back like I always do, but I really feel like I'm right here. Am I the asshole? In the comments, not the asshole. Married people with children who keep separate bank accounts and argue about who pays for what are weird. You're not roommates. OP replies, that is exactly what I'm trying to say. Not to mention that he is the sole beneficiary of his millionaire parents. I came from poverty and worked to get where I am. I do try to keep that out of the arguments though, as that is his business and not ours. I just want to make it clear that I am not a gold digger here. I did choose to work, but it also makes me wonder that if I didn't work, if he would help me at all. If you didn't work, he'd give you a paltry allowance and then micromanage how you spend it. Honestly, I'd drag him to counseling. This is that serious. He's not 100% invested in your marriage/family. OP replies, yeah, but the issue is, who would pay for counseling? I probably can't afford the upkeep of 50-50 and definitely not 100% since it's my idea. Counseling, like all other joint expenses, should be split proportionally based on income. If his reaction, when you tell him that your marriage has deteriorated to the point of needing counseling is, I'm not paying for that, then you should skip counseling and consider a divorce attorney instead. If your husband isn't going to act like your partner, there is no point in continuing to subsidize his lifestyle. Because right now, you are literally paying a share of his bills just because he's too selfish to want to fairly split the cost of his own family with you. Not the asshole. This is a strange financial situation. You are married and in a partnership, your finances need to reflect that. Your hubby also needs to be way more flexible. Are you going to live your whole lives together by a set of rules agreed when you were 20? Is that how he still expects you to live at 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80? I'm assuming when you made this agreement, you hadn't factored your kids in. You guys need to sit down and work out a joint budget and start using joint accounts. OP replies, yes, we made this agreement when we were making similar incomes, didn't have kids, and weren't married. Also, he wasn't paying his half of the rent when we lived together as a young couple. His parents were, to help him build savings. What a hypocrite. I'm sorry, I just really am upset on your behalf. Seriously, the crux of the moral issue is not just that he thinks that he shouldn't share resources as a married couple, already pretty screwed up given that this guy comes from generational wealth, and I'm quite certain he doesn't work harder than OP, to say nothing of the fact that he doesn't give a flying F about her happiness. It's that he doesn't think his child is his responsibility. The premise of shared finances and alimony, which OP should get a fat stack of, is that families agree on a division of labor within the household. Childcare is a massive share of that labor, and by refusing to share any of this extravagant wealth with the person doing it, he is abdicating his responsibility as a parent. If he had hired someone to do his childcare, that person would be entitled to payment, but his demanding OP subsist on income from an entirely separate job and take on the second one for nothing? Personally, I couldn't stay with a cruel, greedy piggy who had so little respect for me, the labor that I performed raising our child, and by extension, our child. And I really hope that OP didn't sign a prenup with this creep. Back up to the post, we have an edit. Thank you for all of the responses. I can honestly say that I did not expect to get this feedback. I'm honestly overwhelmed and cannot reply to all of you, especially while I'm working, but I wanted to update some things here. I love my husband with all my heart, and it's heartbreaking for me to read these comments and realize that I'm being taken advantage of. I need to figure out the best way to approach this issue and solve it before it gets too far. I want to work this out, and the fear of being alone is haunting me. Yes, I did sign a prenup that was overseen by his family attorney. My husband comes from extreme wealth, and I was young and stupid and went with it. Head over heels, like my mother always said I was. As for his family, we get along great and they love me. It's very confusing because they are such incredibly generous people and they are family. But they don't know about our financial situation because my husband and I believe that our marriage is private, and I would feel like I was betraying him by telling them. I'm sorry I cannot reply to all of you, but please know that I'm reading all of the comments and making a plan of approach with them. Edit 2. For those talking about the dates and vacations bit that he pays for, I've asked him numerous times to help lighten my financial load instead of going on these trips and dates, and he has refused. He said that he can do what he wants with his money, and if he wants to take us on vacation, that is what he will pay for. If I could afford vacation, I would pay. In fact, when we were in a more even financial situation, unmarried, no kids, I paid for almost all of our vacations and dates because I love to treat people, and I can't do that anymore. Edit 3. I also do not have bad spending habits. I worked my way out of my student loan debt in 2 years after graduating. I saved $60,000 by the time we got married, and now I have all of that in my retirement, which I'm thankful for because I can no longer contribute to it. This has nothing to do with how I spend. I actually am pretty frugal when it comes to shopping, especially since I prefer to keep things cheap for my budget. And now, onto the update. I sincerely apologize for taking so long to return to Reddit and write an update to this. A lot has happened since. For those who don't know, this post was originally written at the end of February of 2020. The world, therefore after, fell apart. Things were not good with me and my husband at the time of this post. I want to preface this by saying we are still together to this day, and we've welcomed a new child to this world. This time in a much healthier environment. COVID changed a lot for me, along with the intense virality of the last post. Neither my husband nor I got laid off or furloughed, and we were and are so thankful, but my husband moved to work from home. That perspective shift changed a lot for him when he saw what I had to deal with day to day. Things I could never properly communicate about how difficult it is to work while raising a child, and what I brought to the table that he could never see. Despite his newfound appreciation for me, I still found myself resenting him. It was in June that I finally proposed that we go to couples counseling after doing my own virtual therapy sessions since March, from which I learned about why I let people step over me based on my childhood and past, and how to overcome that. To my surprise, my husband agreed, and so we've been in weekly counseling since, even to this day. It helped him to get to the root of his fears and address why he has trouble trusting me financially, which had less to do with me and more to do with what he was brought up believing and had been instilled with. After coming to the point of telling him that I wouldn't want to continue building a family or a life with him where he watched me struggle from luxury, with the help of our amazing counselor who guided us, my husband was willing to adjust our lifestyle to be more equal. I'm not saying everything was or is magically perfect. I know people wanted an update where I left my evil husband and took my baby to start a new life, but I did marry this man for a reason. I saw the good and past this struggle that we've had to overcome. He's become the man that I knew I'd married. We now have a joint bank account as well as our own on the side. We each put 2/3 of our income into the shared account and get to keep 1/3 for ourselves. I'm in a new job now and making much more money than in the original post. Not that this affects the relationship, but so people know that my 1/3 is enough for me to enjoy. It's still a road to recovery, but we have more trust between us and are no longer living a 50-50 lifestyle. Again, I'm sorry for not updating sooner, but the past few years have been a lot for us and everyone. Thank you for all of your support and advice. I promise I wouldn't be sitting here typing this without it. In the comments, I don't know. If he really feels bad, he should pay her back for all the years in which she had nothing after paying for bills, and he still had 150+ K year for spending. They've managed to reach an equilibrium that's benefiting both of them and are, more or less, thriving. Why even try to move forward if you're just going to keep bringing up the past? Because she's still at a severe financial disadvantage for the future in terms of retirement savings if they split up. And who knows what's in that prenup, which was overseen by OP's family lawyer only. She may have agreed to the 50-50 lifestyle and having a baby, but did she agree to be the only one cooking for the family, cleaning for the family, doing laundry for the family? All of that is free labor he was taking advantage of. Had I seen her original post, I would have suggested that she make him consider those hours in lieu of some of her contribution, or he could pay for a housekeeper. Classic example of the stay-at-home parents' contributions being disregarded and taken advantage of. Imagine making almost 4 times what your spouse does, and you want to stick to the same agreement you made when you first moved in together and before you had a child together. Blew my mind reading that. I will never understand long-term romantic partners having wildly disparate incomes and still treating their financial situation like they are 2 postgrads dating with approximately equal incomes. We're a family, except I have $10,000 to spend on myself every month and you only get $1,000. Just be grateful that I pay for the occasional vacations and some dates every now and then, is some sociopathic bullcrap. Our next post is titled, Am I the asshole for taking in my sister without giving a heads up to my husband? Hear me out. I was at my parents' place. I was over to help out my mum with the garden. My younger sister is staying at home for college. It seems Dad was yelling at her about something. He checked her phone and found that she is a lesbian. My mum was just watching her yell at him and backing him up. My sister was just crying. I am a pretty soft-spoken person, and I couldn't stop my dad from yelling, but when he was done, I told her to pack her stuff up and took her to my place. She is a pretty sensitive person, and my parents are pretty assertive and rude sometimes. I tried to text my husband, but he was in a meeting, and he rarely checks his phone while he works. He was surprised to find my sister in our home. I talked to him about it, and he's okay with it, but he's upset on 2 counts. The first being that I didn't give him any heads up and he hates being surprised by anything, and that he'll have to give up his quiet room which he uses to de-stress after work. He just hates having things jumped on him. He knows she has to stay here for a while, and it makes sense. I feel like an asshole, as I should have done things a little bit more calmly. I should have talked to my husband before getting her out of there. I was pretty emotional during this whole thing. It was one of the worst things I have witnessed. I know how much he loves his room, and how great it has been to his mental health to have a place to be alone and process things. It has helped our relationship a lot. I feel like I'm not prioritizing him here, and I took a major decision without consulting him. In the comments, no assholes here. You protected your sister, and that makes sense. In an emergency, sometimes you have to do things right now, and you didn't try to not tell him. Things just came to a head in that moment. He's allowed to be annoyed that there wasn't a discussion and that he's lost his quiet space. I wonder if there was a way to fix the loss of his quiet space, like another room? He gets an hour interrupted time in his bedroom? Etc. Exactly. There are ways to work it out during this summer at home. They both go to run errands and he gets to stay home and chill for a couple of hours. He gets treated to go to the movies by himself, so on and so forth. There's a reason people spend a long time in the bathroom sometimes. My dad used to spend a couple of hours reading and pooping in the bathroom when we were kids. Now that I'm an adult, I totally get it. Lol, 4 kids and multiple foster kids. It was the only place for some quiet time. It's the kitchen for me. A while ago, anytime a kid or husband came in while I was chilling on the laptop or reading a magazine, I would ask them while they're here to unload the dishwasher, or mop the floor, or start dinner. Nobody comes in now while I'm there, or they quietly sneak in and grab a snack, and then run like Usain Bolt. A lot of the time I've already emptied the dishwasher, but they never check. They just suddenly need the bathroom or have to go, do that thing with the, thingamabobber they've been meaning to do. My mother-in-law taught me this trick, and it's kept my sanity over lockdown. No assholes here. Of course he's thrown off by a new person in the house without prior discussion, but it sounds like he'll get over it. Sure, it would have been nice to do this calmly and less urgently, but you did what you had to do to help your sister. Oh look, in this instance, bringing someone in a shared space without consulting the significant other is all good. But on other posts where someone brought their teen pregnant sister in and their girlfriend threw a fit, they were the asshole because they made the girlfriend uncomfortable. Hypocrites. And now onto the update. This is a strange update. My sister moved out and ended up leaving within a month, but her stay with us was illuminating in many ways. The things my sister pointed out to me helped me realize that our marriage was designed to cater to all of his wants and to meet the bare minimum of my needs. I tried to bring this up with him. Small things which could make me feel better, but he didn't want to. I suggested couples therapy, and he thought that it would just be a process of blame being pinned on one of us. I started therapy with my own money, and he was upset that I was wasting it when I was perfectly fine. I started to paint again, something that he didn't like, and he didn't scream at me. He just changed his routine a little so that I had less time to paint and make a mess, which he had to witness while I painted. My marriage was built around not making him sad. Throughout the relationship, I was the one who was responsible for his feelings, and I was the one who had to set mine aside to make him happy. I got out, and I am living with my sister. They had an extra room that they had been looking to sublet, and I took them up on it. It's funny that I ended up in the same position as my sister started out the post in. I am not happier. I miss him, and I have spent almost 9 years with him, but it's liberating not to spend hours molding myself to make him happy. I'm a lot calmer now. I really want to thank the commenters who planted the seeds of doubt about my husband. In the comments, no one person can ever be responsible for the feelings of someone else. That's too much to ask and too big of a burden to place on someone you love. I'm glad you were able to help your sister while gaining perspective. I hope you find continued peace. My abusive father always made it my mum's responsibility to make him happy, and since he struggled with depression, he blamed that on her too. No one is ever responsible for another person's feelings, and if someone tries to make you feel responsible, you need to create a boundary very quickly. You've given me some serious food for thought. I think when I was depressed, I was unfairly blaming my partner for not doing enough to help make it better. I know that's messed up, but I couldn't see the forest for the trees at the time. One of the sneakiest things about depression is that you can't trust how you feel about people because your brain is screwed up and invested in remaining so. I was really surprised that the original top comments were saying no assholes here. I didn't feel like your now ex had any right to be mad that he didn't get a warning. And it seemed crazy to me that he was more upset at losing his quiet room than your sister's situation. While he had a right to be a bit taken aback, the right response to your sister's situation should have been, "Oh my god, how awful. Of course she can stay here until we can sort something more permanent out." You made a brave, bold move, and I'm glad that you are healing. Remember that it's never selfish to take care of yourself, and sometimes that means putting yourself first. I'm happy for you, even if this will be a challenging time for you. You should be very proud of yourself. What struck me was the fact that he complained about not getting any warning when OP literally said that she tried calling and texting him on the way home. Given the situation, how much more notice was he expecting? Was she supposed to just leave her sister in a dangerous situation for several days to make sure he was good and ready to give up his quiet room? I was in a marriage like that. I got very chronically ill, and that's when I realized that everything I did was to make my ex happy, and he couldn't lift a finger to help me when I needed it. Because even minor inconveniences, such as emptying or loading the dishwasher, took away from his me time. When I left, he was literally buying new underwear and socks, and wearing wrinkled, dirty clothing because he simply refused to do his own laundry. It was a big eye-opener for me. I literally would have rather died alone than spend one more day in that marriage. I'm glad that OP got her eye-opener before wasting any more of her time. Being sick, in my opinion, is one of the fastest ways to realize you're in an abusive relationship. Take note if your partner always seems to have an ailment when you're unwell. Same thing happened to me, but in a different way. I have to live with my family right now. I always hated my dad, but thanks to me being very sick, I slept all day for a few days and didn't take my narcolepsy meds to help me stay awake. I didn't notice before because he wasn't stealing enough at a time for me to notice, but the frickin' moron kept stealing my Adderall when I hadn't taken any for 3 to 4 days, so it was pretty obvious at that point. I was wondering why he kept bugging me and coming into my room constantly when I was sick, but now I realize that that piece of crap was stealing the medicine I need to not sleep 17 hours in a row right next to me while I was asleep and in pain. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.